Welcome to Remotely Interested, the podcast where we talk remote working, work life in general, and top tips to successfully work from anywhere. Back in March 2024, I published my first online course, Remote Freelancing, Landing the Jobs You Love. Today, for the first time, I'm going to share a taster of this course for free. 5 of the key pieces of advice shared with the more than 2,500 students from 123 countries who have enrolled on the course. Even if you've already completed the course, please stay tuned until the end of the course taster.
1. Forget dream job. Target something else far more important.
So I'd stumbled across something really important here. I didn't need to become a professional musician or a visual artist in order to enjoy my job. What was important was to find the right sector or work within an industry that interested me. So many people talk about the importance of figuring out what is your dream job and pursuing it, but this can be really time consuming and very, very competitive if indeed you do want to make a living from this kind of pursuit. So instead of thinking dream job, we need to think more about a dream environment. Now, this course is about remote freelancing, so I'm not talking about a literal physical environment, but I am talking about, as I said, a sector or an industry that will genuinely be of interest to you. So, forget dream job, think dream environment.
2. Setting your keywords for searches is not as limiting as you might think.
So our job search on Upwork or any other website will revolve around keywords, and so I would recommend creating a document and saving it somewhere where you have all of these keywords saved. This will make life so much easier for yourself so that you can in turn copy and paste these keywords and drop them into the search bar and see what's on offer in line with the keywords that are connected with your skills and the kind of role that you're looking for. So as a bookkeeper, you can see my keywords here. So the top section are keywords connected to the role and tasks within the role. The second section are software packages that I tend to use in the role. And the third section at the bottom are words connected to the industry or sector that I'm trying to work in. So what would your keywords be? Give it some thought. You'll have an opportunity to jot down these keywords in section 1 of the worksheet for this course unit, and then afterwards you can create that online document that you can refer to.
3. Annotation is the key to standout job applications.
So the first technique is annotation of the job description. And this is using a similar principle to what we saw in the second course unit when we used the job description to write our proposal. So what we're going to do is go through every line of the job description and also review any further information that we gained during the chat stage, and then make notes of keywords that link this information to your experience and skills. So the job description will need to be in a format where you can add notes, so either a digital copy or a hard copy. And here's an example of a line that might be in a job description. We require someone who speaks clear English. So we want to make a connection between this line and our skills or experience. So it might be really simple. You might simply be a native speaker. So note that down. Maybe you're not a native speaker. So what could you put instead that shows that you could fulfill this role? You could make a note that you've lived in England for 5 years, if that's the case. Or you have relevant qualifications. You've passed a Cambridge English proficiency test. So just make a note of these things so that you've got it clear in your mind that you've covered all the bases, all the lines of this job description. Here's another example. The role will involve diary management and scheduling. So what notes could you potentially make? If you've used Google Calendars with 3 clients, you could write as I've noted here. Or as an employee, you've used Outlook calendars with 10 different colleagues who were in your team. So you could make a note as shown. However, maybe you don't have relevant work experience of scheduling, but could you still show that you possess the required skills? How about this? You've used a personal Google Calendar as a student, and that's worth writing down to show that you do have relevant experience. Or you've organised family and social events, and that's required using perhaps a scheduling software, coordinating everybody's emails and phone numbers. All of this is relevant, and all of this you would note down on your job description to help you see that you've covered all bases. It's a confidence booster because you can see how much you are well suited to the role, and it will help you during the interview to be able to easily call this relevant information to mind and share it with the interviewer to show that you are definitely capable of doing the job. The second pre-interview technique is to do exactly the same thing but on your CV. Go through your whole CV and make connections between every point that you can, your skills and experience and the job description. So this time you'd need a version of your CV, either in digital or hard copy format, that you're able to annotate. And for this exercise, we're going to imagine that it's for a marketing or social media management position on behalf of a creative company. Okay, so keep this in mind, social media and creative company. So you'd go through every line of your CV. Here is an example of what you would do under the apps and software used section of your CV. So here you've got the software that you've used in all of the jobs that you've had in the past. And what you would do is highlight the software that is relevant to this social media management position that you're interviewing for. And just next to each of those highlighted apps, you would note down how long you've been using them. Similarly, looking at where you've worked in the past, this would be listed on your CV. And so this is a marketing and social media management position, okay? But it's also on behalf of a creative company. So you'd look through your previous workplaces and highlight any of the workplaces that have a creative angle. And then you could just make a note, grouping them together as creative companies. As I've said before, this will help you to call to mind this specific information during the interview, and you'll be able to share it with the interviewer and prove that you're well suited to the role. The more notes you're able to make, the more confident you can be that you are the right person for the job, and you will be able to convey this to the interviewer. So doing this double annotation prior to the interview will help you to be confident and convincing during the interview. It's a great way to prepare your mind and to promote yourself effectively during the interview. The interviewer will likely mention all the various requirements of the role, some of which have already been written in the job description. So if you've already prepared this double annotation and given thought to how your skills and your experience connect to the role, you'll be able to go beyond simple yes/no responses, and you'll be able to effortlessly drop into the conversation valuable details which show that you are suited to the role. You'll come across as proficient and effective. For example, the interviewer might mention, for this role, you need to be able to type accurately and quickly. Do you have much experience? Well, if you've taken time to annotate your CV, annotate the job description, and consider the experience that you have, you'd be able to easily answer as follows, for example. Yes, I recently took an online tutorial and obtained an accredited certificate of 42 words per minute. Or maybe you don't have work experience, but because you've thought of this before, you're able to say, I typed my dissertation in my final year of university, and I spent a lot of time typing my own personal projects in my spare time, which has helped me to gain proficiency. Or the interviewer could mention this. In this role, we need someone to carry out data entry. Do you have experience of that? If you've taken the time to annotate the job description in your CV, you've already considered your answer. And so you may answer something like, yes, I have done data entry for a number of temp roles. Or if you don't have the work experience yet, but you've considered what you did when you were still a student, you could answer, yes, it was a big part of my final project at college when I had to present my research results.
4. Nodding in agreement with your interviewer at a key moment during the interview will increase your chances of getting the job.
Well, here is a suggestion of something that I've done in both in-person and video conference interviews, and it works every time. I have to give credit to Graham Martin, the recruitment guy, for this suggestion and his incredible videos. In the Next Steps worksheet, which is attached to this course unit, I've shared the relevant link to the video, which helped me grow in confidence during job interviews. Again, you scan all of your pre-prepared questions. And as you go, you say, so we've talked a lot about the qualifications and the skills required in the role. But what kind of person are you looking for? And which qualities are required to be successful in this role? So the answer that the interviewer gives to this question is really important. Why? Well, because it gives you a good idea of the culture and the atmosphere that reigns in this company. It also will give you an idea of how the current staff interact with each other. And you can make a decision based on these answers on whether you want to be part of this environment or not. As the interviewer answers this question about qualities, you want to make sure that you keep eye contact with the interviewer, and you nod, and you smile, and you communicate to them without a word that you are this person that they're looking for to fulfill the role. It's a simple but effective way to create a connection between you and the interviewer and make sure that they don't forget you when they're making the decision about who's been successful during the interview.
5. Regular reviews of income can help you target and secure the best clients as a freelancer.
So the next document you're going to see is something that I found really invaluable when it comes to reviewing the hours worked and my monthly and annual income. And as is the case for all of the resources that you've seen during this course unit, I'm offering these items to you for free as a download at the end of the course. So there are 3 tabs, and the first tab is the client list tab. So you can see there, top left, I've listed them one by one. And if you needed to add a new client, it's very simple, just to add a new line. Now under each month you can see the way in which I've billed for the work. So INV stands for invoice. But imagine we had a new client, perhaps you're being paid via a website like Upwork. And so you could add that in from the month that you began to work for them. So that's just an extra example. So we'll just deal with these first 4 clients that we're invoicing month on month. And to the right, you can add the details on what's been agreed. So the first client is a simple hourly rate, but you've put notes on the right because perhaps you intend to increase that rate. So you've noted the date that you've started to work for that particular client. Cherry Consultants, it's a retainer fee, £100 a month. So make a note of that, it's a flat rate. Dates Direct Marketing, it's a daily rate and they expect you to work at least 1 day a week. And so in the second column, you can make a note of what that means in an hourly rate. And initially, perhaps there was an end date in mind for this contract, or maybe it's now a rolling contract. In any case, just make a note because this kind of information is useful if you need to renegotiate the contract. And then the last client, a simple hourly rate. And just underneath, you can see we've repeated the names of the clients and we've given an estimation of how much we expect to earn each month. But of course, this can vary. But it's good to have a general idea, of course, of what your monthly income will be. So our middle tab is the weekly hour total. And this is really important to gauge how many hours you are working per client each week. This can be really useful for you to be able to perhaps notice patterns and notice which weeks are busier than others. Depending on the nature of your job, there may be some weeks within a month which are a lot busier than others. And so it's good to make note of this. Also, if you're working for a retainer fee, it's important to see exactly how many hours you are working for that fee and therefore what that represents in terms of an hourly rate. So now we're moving to our third tab, Apple Accounting Income. And here again, we'll see all of the clients are listed. And this is an opportunity to look at the hours worked, the gross income, and the average value of the hours that we've worked. So Berry, for example, was £12.50 per hour. And so you can see that in the formulae, 12.50, the hours totted up, and then the average pound per hour figure. So for berry and eggplant, that will simply be the hourly rate that you've agreed with the client. But for cherry and dates, given that these are daily rates and retainer fees, this is where it's really important to see exactly how many hours you worked for that client, because then you can refer back to what was agreed and also what was expected. And there can be a lot of variance between months. Cherry consultants, for example, you were paid £100 in April for 2 hours 45 minutes, but you were paid that same £100 fee in May for 9 hours and 40 minutes. So the hourly rate has gone from £36.36 to £10.34. That's something that you want to keep an eye on. Perhaps over the course of the year, that will even out, and the average of the hourly rates that you ended up being paid may well be acceptable to you. But if you find that you're consistently working at an hourly rate that you're not happy with, this is where this document is really helpful, because you have the details to refer to, and it will be a very useful tool for you to use when negotiating a better contract with your client. And so when the month has ended, you can simply cut and paste and start again. Now, where there's a retainer fee or a daily rate, you can enter those figures right away for cherry consultants and dates direct, for example. You already know generally what you're going to earn for those clients. Also, next to each client, you can make a note of roughly when you got paid. And at the top, you'll see that 2 of those paid notes are marked in red, because perhaps they paid you later than you expected. So good to make a note of that, because that will all become part of your future decisions on whether you want to retain this particular client or communicate to them the importance of respecting your payment terms in order to maintain a positive, ongoing professional relationship. For access to the full discounted course, please follow the Udemy link in the show notes. And don't forget to check out the other Mosaic Gold remote career building resources on our Stand store. This last month, I checked in with a few remote workers from my network, and they told me some of their surprising tips for effective online work.
When you're working remotely, it's easy for problems to arise, mistakes to be made, and issues to get resolved online without a real-time conversation. However, during periods of change or high workload, these challenges can pile up quickly. You might start to feel like you're constantly firefighting and only communicating about problems, which can unintentionally affect how your boss or client perceives you. Instead of hoping things improve on their own, take the initiative. Schedule a meeting with your team to discuss long-term solutions that can prevent these issues from recurring. Checking in proactively not only helps create stability, but also reminds your colleagues that you're a valuable, thoughtful, and solutions-oriented member of the team.
Going for walks can be really helpful. Go for a walk in the morning. It's a mini commute which will wake you up, gives you a sense of separation between your home life and work life, and exposes your skin to natural sunlight, which will make for a more productive and healthier day. Then go for a walk after lunch. It aids digestion, gives you a chance to meditate on what happened during the morning, and gives you space to mentally prepare and refocus for the rest of the afternoon.
Many people hate their job. However, work feels more meaningful when you genuinely connect with what your company does. Take a few minutes to explore the company website, scroll through its social media, or even check out the founder's public posts in a totally non-stalky way, of course. This quick refresh can remind you of the bigger picture, what the company stands for, and what it's achieving right now. If you can link your daily tasks to that broader, more inspiring mission, the workday feels more purposeful, and it tends to fly by much faster.
Are you ready to try some of these out this month? I know I am. See you next month for a return to the usual remotely interested, longer format interview. Until then, if you're even remotely interested in remote working, I'll see you next time.